You're already as good as dead. I can't waste my life on you and those brats.
He forged her death certificate, stole her money, married his mistress, and built a fake charity in her name, all while the world believed she was dead. But tonight, as he raised his champagne glass on stage, she walked in, alive, with evidence, and a police officer. You're not ready for what happens next.
The hospital room smelled like bleach and anxiety, the kind of place where hope goes to die quietly under fluorescent lights. Elena Walker sat on the edge of the exam table, her body still sore from carrying and birthing triplets just 4 months ago. Her hand rested instinctively on her stomach, the other gripping the thin paper covering the bed. In the stroller beside her, her 3 babies cooed, unaware their mother's world was about to collapse. The doctor's mouth was moving, but her brain had stopped processing after 3 words. It's cervical cancer. She blinked slowly, trying to anchor herself in the room, in this moment that was pulling her into a nightmare she hadn't signed up for. Stage 2, he repeated. Treatable, but we have to start immediately. Her first instinct wasn't fear for herself, it was, who will feed them? Who will hold them at 2 a.m.? Elena hadn't slept more than 2 consecutive hours in months, and now her body, already broken by motherhood, was breaking again, in a different way. Not from life, but from something designed to take it away. That's when the door opened. Marcus walked in, polished as ever. Crisp suit, designer watch, that fake smile concern he wore like cologne. "Elena," he said, rushing to her side. "What's going on? What did they say?" She looked up, searching for the man she once married, the man who had whispered vows into her ear under golden lights, the man who held her hand through labor 3 times over. But his eyes weren't the same, and neither was she. "I have cancer," she said softly. He froze, not with shock, but with irritation, like she'd just told him dinner was going to be late. "What? Are you sure?" he asked, brows furrowed just enough to look concerned. "Stage 2. They caught it early, but it's serious. I'll need treatment, help, with the kids, the house, everything." He stepped back. "Jesus, Elena, this is, a lot." She nodded, trying to breathe. "I know, but I can fight this." "Yeah," he interrupted, pacing. "Yeah, we'll figure it out. Of course." But she saw it, the flicker in his eyes. Not fear, not love, calculation. That night, Marcus didn't come to bed, said he had work to finish. Elena woke up to the sound of one baby crying, then all 3. His side of the bed was still cold. She told herself it was stress, that he needed time to process. She had no idea it was the beginning of his exit strategy. Days turned into weeks. Chemo consultations, breast pumps, diaper changes, nausea, the hair on her pillow, the way Marcus stopped looking her in the eye, the way he started coming home later, dressing better, laughing at texts she never saw. And then one night, he said it. "You're always sick now." Not even looking up from his phone. And something inside her cracked. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Elena stayed silent because the woman she used to be, the hopeful, trusting wife, was already slipping away. She had no idea that by the end of this journey, even her name would no longer belong to her. But she also had no idea how strong she would become, that even when buried under lies, betrayal, and heartbreak, Some women don't just survive, they come back with fire. Elena wanted to believe it was the stress, that Marcus's coldness, his sudden distance, the way he flinched at the sound of a crying baby were all just symptoms of a man overwhelmed by the weight of life. After all, weren't they both exhausted? Weren't they both grieving the future they thought they had? But as the days passed, the cracks turned into chasms. He stopped kissing her goodbye, stopped asking how the appointments went, stopped pretending. One morning, as Elena sat on the floor feeding two of the babies while the third screamed in the bassinet, she whispered, "I need you." Her hands shook from fatigue, her mouth was dry, her hair had started falling out in clumps, and her skin was pale like candle wax. Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. "You think I'm not dealing with stuff too?" he snapped. "I'm the one working, keeping this house going while you lay in bed all day." It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was contempt. "I'm not lying in bed," she said, voice barely audible. "I'm sick." "Yeah," he muttered under his breath. "You're always sick now." Elena didn't cry. She couldn't afford to. That night, he didn't come home. He said it was a late meeting, but at 2:37 a.m., when the front door never opened, she knew. She checked his location. Off. She checked his texts. Locked. But the next day, she found what she didn't know she was looking for. His phone lit up as he got into the shower. The message was simple. "I miss you already. Can't wait to see you again. V." She stared at it for a long time. Her hand trembling, she didn't confront him. She waited. The next day, the message was gone. Deleted. So were the call logs. At church that Sunday, Marcus gripped her hand like a loyal husband as they sat in the front row. The pastor called for prayers, and Marcus stood to his feet. "My wife," he said, choking on fake emotion, "is battling cancer with more grace than I've ever seen. Please pray for her strength." People clapped. One woman hugged Elena after the service and whispered, "You're so lucky to have a man like him." Elena smiled politely. Inside, she was screaming. Later that week, he came home with a new shirt. Designer. Obviously expensive. "Is that new?" she asked, rocking one of the babies, spit up on her shoulder. "Had a meeting," he said, brushing past her. "Business stuff. You wouldn't get it." She didn't ask again. That night, when her friend Angela dropped by to help, Elena finally cracked. "I think he's cheating on me," she whispered. Angela looked at her for a long moment. "You're not crazy." "But what if I am? I'm sick. I'm tired. Maybe I'm just paranoid." Angela took her hand. "Paranoia doesn't delete messages." Elena nodded, slowly. "He looks at me like I'm disgusting, like I'm already gone." Angela didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, softly, "If he's leaving now, when you need him most, then he was never your partner to begin with." 2 nights later, the truth erupted like a volcano. Elena woke up parched, her throat dry and scratchy. She went downstairs for water and heard Marcus's voice, sharp and impatient. He didn't know she was standing behind the hallway wall. "No, I'm not dragging this out. She's basically dead already." Her heart stopped. "I can't waste my life on her, and those brats. I need out. This is my only shot." Silence. Then the call ended. Elena didn't move. She stood there, clutching the wall, as the man who had once promised her forever signed off on her death like a business transaction. The next morning, he was gone. The closet, half empty. The garage, vacant. The note, just one line scribbled on the counter. "Don't try to find me." No goodbye, no explanation, just an erasure. Elena dropped to the kitchen floor, the babies crying behind her like sirens echoing in a cave. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then, everything went black. Angela had planned to sleep on the couch that night, sensing something was off. She jolted awake to the sound of 3 babies crying in unison. She ran upstairs. The cribs were full, but Elena was gone. She found her in the hallway, collapsed on the floor, pale and barely breathing. "Elena!" Angela knelt beside her, checking for a pulse, faint but present. She dialed 911 with shaking hands. Elena's world went dark again. But this time, it wasn't the end. It was the bottom. And from here, she would rise.
The sirens cut through the early morning quiet like a warning to the world. Something sacred was breaking. Inside the ambulance, Elena's body lay still. Her pulse was faint, her breathing shallow, her skin ghostly pale. An EMT pressed an oxygen mask over her face while shouting vitals into a radio. Another tried to soothe the 3 screaming infants strapped into makeshift carriers beside her, their cries piercing the sterile hum of chaos. Angela sat wedged between them, holding one tiny hand in each of hers, whispering, "Hold on, Elena. Please just hold on." The ER was ready. As the stretcher wheeled through the sliding doors, doctors and nurses closed in like storm clouds. Blood pressure, fluids, blood draws, full scans. Orders were barked. Shoes squeaked on tile. Lights flickered above, clinical and cruel. "Extreme exhaustion," one doctor muttered. "Severe dehydration, she's malnourished. Body in shutdown, stress-induced collapse." Words floated above her like static in a dream. But Elena wasn't dreaming. Her body had finally done what Marcus had tried to do: let her die. When she woke up 2 days later, the first thing she saw was Angela, curled in a hospital chair, worn, awake, watching. "Elena?" she whispered. Elena blinked slowly. Her lips were cracked, her tongue dry as ash. "Water," she rasped. Angela leapt to her feet and brought a cup to her lips. Elena took a sip, then another. Where are they?" Angela smiled through tired eyes. "Safe. The babies are okay. They're with me." Elena closed her eyes and exhaled. It was the first breath she had taken without pain in weeks. But survival didn't bring relief. The next few days passed in fog. Doctors came and went. Meds came in IV bags and syringes. She drifted between waking and sleeping, haunted by dreams where Marcus stood at the foot of her hospital bed and laughed. When the nurses wheeled in the babies one afternoon, Elena tried to sit up. Her arms shook, her chest burned, but she reached out anyway. She cradled one of them, Ava or maybe Eli, she couldn't tell through the haze, and wept silently into their hair. Angela stood quietly by the window. "They need you," she said softly. "I know, but what if I can't do it? What if I'm not enough?" Angela walked over and placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "You already are. The fact that you're still here proves it." On day 5, Angela brought a stack of documents in a battered folder. She hesitated before setting it on Elena's lap. "I didn't want to show you this while you were still recovering, but you deserve to know." Elena opened the folder with trembling hands. Bank statements, empty balances, wire transfers. All gone. "He drained everything," Angela said. "The savings, your emergency fund, even the small inheritance from your mother." Elena's eyes welled up. "All of it?" Angela nodded. "And there's more." She flipped the folder to the last page. A copy of a document, typed, signed, sealed. A life insurance claim. Filed by Marcus. Under cause of claim, it read, "Death, cervical cancer."
Denied, Angela added quickly. The company flagged it, said the death certificate was incomplete, but he tried. Elena stared at the page as if it might burst into flames. "He wanted me gone," she whispered. Angela's jaw clenched. Really gone. That night, after the nurses dimmed the lights and the babies were asleep in their bassinets, Elena lay staring at the ceiling. Not crying, not thinking, just breathing. Because breathing was something Marcus never thought she'd do again. He had taken her money, her health, her name. He had buried her in silence. But she was still here. And something deep inside her, something primal and ancient, began to wake up. She whispered it into the dark, not to herself, but to her children, who slept inches from her soul. "I'm not done."
The discharge papers were forged, not by criminals in back alleys, but by a nurse with a conscience and a friend with nothing left to lose. Angela pulled every string she had, called in favors, reached out to a retired physician who had once owed her a life-saving referral. Within 72 hours, Elena Walker, the woman whose husband had tried to erase her, was quietly signed out of the hospital under a new name, Ellie James. The name didn't feel like hers, not yet, but neither did the old one. Elena Walker had died, maybe not in body but in spirit, somewhere between the chemo, the betrayal, and that one-line note on the kitchen counter. The ambulance ride to the countryside wasn't urgent this time, just quiet. Angela drove, Elena sat beside her, wrapped in a blanket, holding one baby while the other two slept in carriers behind them. The silence was thick, but not uncomfortable. Angela broke it gently. "This place is small, no neighbors close by. Closest town is 10 minutes away. No one knows you there." Elena nodded. "Good," she said. "I don't want to be known." The house was nothing. Peeling paint, a leaky roof, a fridge that hummed louder than the nearby highway, but it was safe. Angela had found it through a friend of a friend, listed under a company name, paid in cash. The only name on any lease was Ellie James. The triplets didn't care. They giggled in their cribs, one donated by a local church, two others from a shelter liquidation. Elena watched them from the hallway that night, her body still weak, her soul hollow. Her scalp was bald, her skin pale. In the mirror, she saw a stranger. No curves, no lashes, no color. But that stranger was alive, and that was something. Angela stayed the first week, stocked the fridge, built cribs, changed diapers. But on the 8th day, she sat Elena down at the rickety kitchen table. "I have to go back," she said. "I'll come every weekend. I'll bring groceries. But if I stay longer, someone's going to start asking questions." Elena didn't beg. She just nodded. "I'll be okay," she said. Angela stood. "No, you won't. But you'll survive. And that's enough, for now." Before leaving, Angela handed her a prepaid cell phone, in case you need me or just need to scream. Then, she was gone. For weeks, Elena lived in a fog. She moved like a ghost, fed the babies, rocked them, changed them, slept in fits, cried in silence. Marcus hadn't even checked if she survived, didn't call the hospital, didn't care. And worse, he made sure no one else cared either. Angela had dug deeper. Before Marcus disappeared, he sent messages to Elena's extended family, cousins, old friends, distant aunts, claiming she'd gone off the rails, that she'd stopped treatment, that she was refusing help and pushing everyone away. He told them she died in hospice. He even held a funeral, small, private, closed casket.
Angela had found photos on a social post from someone in the city. There was Marcus, weeping before a priest, holding one of the triplets in his hands, playing the role of widowed father with Oscar-worthy conviction. Elena stared at the photos for a long time. "He buried me alive," she whispered. Angela nodded. "He didn't just leave, he deleted you." One night, Elena took a pair of scissors and cut what little was left of her hair, not out of anger, but ritual. The woman in the mirror looked at her, and for the first time, Elena looked back. No longer waiting to be saved, no longer clinging to hope that someone might come apologize, just breathing, and that had to be enough. She began journaling at night after the baby slept, not letters to herself, letters to them. Someday, they would read these pages. Someday, they would know their mother didn't give up, that she was buried, yes, but she dug her way out. Every letter ended the same. "You are the reason I stay alive." Elena got stronger, not quickly, not fully, but stronger. She could walk to the mailbox again. She could lift 2 babies at once. She could look at her own reflection without flinching. And every night, she whispered the same thing: "I'm not done."
The first time Elena saw his face again, it was on her phone screen. She had been scrolling through a parenting blog, trying to find tips for sleep-training toddlers, when a sponsored video popped up. Marcus Walker, widowed father of triplets, builds legacy of hope. She froze. The thumbnail showed Marcus in a tailored suit, holding one of their children, smiling. Behind him, a banner fluttered in soft focus: the Elena Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness. Her chest tightened. He had used her name, her death, her story, to become someone. She clicked play. Marcus stood on a brightly lit stage, microphone in hand, charisma dripping from every syllable. "When my wife passed, I was lost, but I knew her spirit lived on in every woman battling this disease. So I started the Elena Foundation, to honor her courage and to fight for others like her." Applause. Tears. Elena stared in disbelief. She wasn't angry yet, not fully. She was stunned. Somewhere out there, people were crying over a version of her that didn't exist. And Marcus, he was basking in the spotlight. It got worse. Angela sent screenshots, magazine features, podcast interviews, a viral TED-style talk called Grief into Greatness. He said things like, "Elena taught me to love fearlessly, even in goodbye. I held her hand in the hospital when she took her last breath." Elena wanted to scream. She had taken that breath, alone. But Marcus didn't stop at storytelling. He remarried. Vanessa Hale, daughter of a wealthy vineyard owner, former PR executive and local media darling. Their wedding photos were everywhere. Vanessa in a lace gown, standing beside Marcus in a vineyard. The caption? "After heartbreak, a second chance. Marcus Walker finds love again." Elena stared at the photo, her thumb shaking, not because he moved on, but because he never looked that happy with her. Vanessa became the new face beside him at charity events. She smiled, she waved, she posed for pictures holding the triplets. Yes, her triplets. Elena wanted to punch the screen, but she didn't. She saved every photo, every article, every false quote, because one day she would need them. Meanwhile, Elena was learning how to live again. Under her new name, Ellie James, she got a job cleaning offices late at night. No questions. Cash under the table. Angela brought groceries and baby clothes every other weekend. On good days, they sat on the porch and pretended things were normal.
On bad days, they didn't speak at all. But the kids grew. They giggled, played, called her mommy. They didn't know about the funeral, or the lies, or the way their father had traded them for a better life. And Elena intended to keep it that way, for now. Then came the twist. One quiet Saturday, Angela walked in holding a tablet. "You need to see this," she said, her voice low. It was a press release. Marcus had been awarded Humanitarian of the Year by a prestigious nonprofit coalition. A gala was planned in his honor. The banner? The Elena Foundation Gala, honoring women who inspire us. It would be broadcasted, sponsored by major brands. Political figures were expected to attend. And Marcus? He was listed as the keynote speaker. Elena's blood boiled. She didn't care about the award. She didn't even care about the lies anymore. What made her sick, what truly burned, was that he had built a kingdom on her ashes, and the world was cheering for him. Elena watched her carefully. "Say the word," she said. "We can start taking him down." Elena stared at the screen for a long time, then whispered, "Not yet." Elena didn't scream, didn't rage, didn't throw things. Instead, she opened a drawer in the back of her tiny living room, pulled out a USB drive labeled "For the End," and plugged it into her old laptop. Inside were years of receipts, screenshots of Marcus's bank transfers, most under fake names, copies of emails between him and sketchy consultants, photos from his foundation's galas where money changed hands but never showed up in the annual reports, a scanned copy of the fake death certificate, filed, notarized, but never state-verified. Angela had helped collect it all. Every time Marcus stepped on a stage, Elena took notes. And now, she had enough to pull the floor out from under him. They started small. Elena, under the alias Concerned Volunteer, began submitting anonymous reports to nonprofit regulators. Angela mailed redacted foundation ledgers to watchdog organizations. They created burner emails, fake Facebook accounts, and posted tips on internet forums where journalists lingered. Nothing traced back to them, but the cracks began to show. First, a minor sponsor quietly pulled out of a gala event. No statement, just gone. Then, a local newspaper published a short piece questioning the Elena Foundation's unverified grant disbursements. Marcus brushed it off in public, but behind the scenes, his temper boiled. Vanessa saw it for the first time. The way he snapped at assistants, the way he shut his office door and yelled into his phone, the way he'd sit in silence, staring at nothing, gripping a scotch glass until his knuckles turned white. Vanessa was pregnant now, and afraid. Marcus hadn't celebrated the news, hadn't even smiled, just said, "That's great," and reached for his phone. Vanessa began to wonder. She started checking his laptop when he left it open, reading emails, cross-referencing statements, and what she found made her stomach twist. Transfers. Dates that didn't match, a wire sent from Elena's inheritance weeks after her supposed death. She confronted him. "I know you forged Elena's death certificate," she said, her voice shaking. Marcus barely looked up from his drink. "I know you stole from her." That got his attention. He set his glass down and walked toward her. "Vanessa, if you say those things out loud, even to yourself, your life will unravel. Your name, your future, this baby's future." She backed away. "I won't live like this." He shrugged. "Then don't. But if you leave, you'll be just another ex-wife with a scandal on her back, raising a kid without a father. And you know how fast this world turns on women." Vanessa said nothing, but inside something hardened. And the next morning,
She sent an email from a throwaway account to the same journalist Elena had been watching for months. Subject line: "You need to talk to Ellie James." That night, Darren Cole arrived at Elena's shop. Leather jacket, thick glasses, curiosity in his eyes. "So, you're telling me Marcus Walker faked your death, stole your identity, and used your name to build a charity empire?" Elena didn't flinch. "I'm not telling you anything yet, but I'm giving you this." She slid the folder across the table. The receipts, the death certificate, the transfer records, the photos, the truth. Darren stared at them. "I heard whispers, but no one ever had receipts like this." "You do now," she replied. "But I don't want you to publish yet." He raised an eyebrow. "Then what do you want?" Elena leaned forward. "I want him to climb higher. Let the world worship him. And then I want it to all come crashing down in front of them." Over the next month, the sabotage escalated, quietly. A former accountant from the foundation emailed a blog with an anonymous tip. A charity partner withdrew from a campaign, citing internal discrepancies. A bank placed a hold on a property Marcus was trying to refinance. No one traced it back to Elena. No one could. She was just Ellie James, single mother, shop owner, cancer survivor. To the world, she didn't exist, and that was her greatest weapon. Then came the final straw, an invitation sent from Marcus's own PR team to local business owners, Ellie James among them, the Elena Foundation Gala, honoring women battling cancer, featuring a tribute to the late Elena Walker. Elena stared at the email for a long time, then smiled. Angela noticed the glint in her eye. "It's time?" she asked. Elena nodded. "Let him hang the banner." She paused. "I'll be the one to tear it down."
Vanessa Walker, formerly Hale, had spent the last year living inside a gilded cage. From the outside, everything sparkled. Designer gowns, charity galas, articles calling her a poised symbol of second chances. Photos of her and Marcus beaming on magazine covers. The perfect couple forged in tragedy, rising from grief. But inside, something wasn't right. She'd been married to Marcus long enough to know when he was hiding something. And he was always hiding something. It started with questions. "Why don't we have any family photos of Elena pregnant?" Marcus shrugged. It was a hard time. She didn't want pictures. "What hospital were the triplets born at?" "Small clinic, no longer open." "Why doesn't the foundation list where the money goes?" Marcus got defensive, then cold, then silent. Vanessa stopped asking. But she didn't stop wondering. One night, Marcus fell asleep on the couch with his laptop open. Vanessa hesitated. Her heart pounded. Then she clicked. Inside his email was a message he thought he'd deleted. "Transfer complete. $95,000 withdrawn from EW Trust to South Bay Holdings, LLC. Date: 4/17. Vanessa froze. That date. It was 2 weeks after Elena's supposed death. She stared at the screen, her fingers numb. She whispered, "Oh my God, what did you do?" She hired a private investigator. Quietly. An old contact from her PR days. A week later, the report arrived. Thin, but devastating. The death certificate Marcus filed had never been verified by the state. It had been flagged as incomplete. When Vanessa confronted him, she expected denial. She didn't expect calm. "It was a paperwork error," Marcus said, pouring himself a drink. "You know how broken the system is." She wanted to scream.
Instead, she asked, "What if she's not dead?" Marcus stared at her, cold. "Then that would be very inconvenient, wouldn't it?" That night, Vanessa couldn't sleep. She went to the nursery, sat in the dark, and placed her hand on her stomach. The pregnancy test was still in the bathroom drawer. 2 pink lines. She was going to be a mother. And she was terrified. What if Marcus did the same thing to her? Discarded her the moment she became a burden. What if this child was just another prop? The next morning, she told him she was pregnant. Marcus didn't smile. Didn't touch her. Just said, "That's great," and scrolled through his phone. Later that night, Vanessa finally broke. "I know you faked Elena's death." Silence. "I know you stole her money." Still silence. "And I know she's probably not dead." Marcus set his glass down, his jaw tight. "Vanessa," he said slowly, "if you ever say that again, to me or anyone, I will make your life unlivable." She backed away. "I'm carrying your child." "Exactly. Which is why you're going to sit still, smile for the camera, and forget all this." Her eyes welled with tears. "I can't live like this." He stepped closer. "If you leave, your child will be born into scandal. You'll be dragged through the tabloids, no support, no father, just whispers." He leaned in. "You'll be the ex-wife who ruined America's favorite widow." Vanessa didn't answer. But inside, she was done. And the next day, she sent a second email. Same burner account. Same journalist. Subject line: "She's alive. I can prove it." Later that week, she met Elena in person. No cameras, no drama. Just 2 women sitting across from each other in a closed flower shop. Vanessa looked tired, pale, pregnant. "I'm sorry for all of it." Elena didn't cry, didn't smile, just handed her a folder. Inside was a letter. Marcus's handwriting. From 5 years ago. The letter he left behind when he disappeared. "Don't try to find me." Vanessa's hands trembled. "Will this be enough?" Elena nodded. "It's the final nail."
The ballroom shimmered. Gold chandeliers sparkled overhead, violins played softly in the background, and waiters in white gloves served champagne to guests in black tie. This was Marcus Walker's night, the final act of his carefully curated image. The banner behind the stage read, "The Elena Foundation Gala, honoring women battling cancer." And in the center of it all, Marcus stood smiling, perfectly groomed, perfectly lit, perfectly false. Vanessa stood beside him in a crimson gown, every inch the picture-perfect wife. But her hands trembled, not from fear, from anticipation. She knew what was coming, and for the first time in months, she wasn't afraid. Backstage, Elena adjusted her earrings. Her reflection stared back, poised, calm, and unrecognizable from the pale woman who had once collapsed on a hallway floor. The sleek black dress hugged her frame, her hair, now shoulder-length, curled around her face. Beside her, Angela straightened her necklace. "You sure about this?" she whispered. Elena's voice was low but steady.
I've waited 5 years. She stepped toward the curtain. It ends tonight. On stage, Marcus raised his champagne glass. Tonight, he said, we celebrate the legacy of a woman who taught me love, courage, and resilience. Elena Walker may no longer be with us, but through this foundation, she lives on. Polite applause echoed across the room. Cameras flashed. A soft piano note lingered in the air. And then, gasps. Dozens of heads turned toward the back of the ballroom. Every eye widened, every breath held, because there, walking calmly through the double doors, was Elena Walker, alive. She didn't rush, didn't speak. She just walked, slow and certain, through the stunned silence. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor. Reporters scrambled, phones lifted, flashes exploded. Marcus froze. His face drained of color. His mouth parted, but no words came out. Vanessa stepped away from him, glass slipping from her hand and shattering quietly on the floor. Elena reached the base of the stage and looked up. "You weren't expecting me," she said. The microphone picked it up perfectly. Marcus stammered, "Elena, this isn't what it looks like." Vanessa turned to the crowd, then back to Marcus. She slipped the ring off her finger, held it in the air, then dropped it at his feet. Clink. And walked off stage without a word. No one stopped Elena as she stepped up to the mic. Security stood frozen. The audience, too stunned to move, leaned forward as she opened her purse and pulled out a folder. "Good evening," she said, voice clear and calm. "I'm Elena Walker. Not a memory, not a foundation slogan, a living, breathing woman. The woman Marcus Walker buried on paper." Murmurs rippled through the room. "I'm here tonight to take my name back, and to show you who he really is." She handed the folder to Darren Cole, now seated front row, notebook ready. "In here, you'll find proof that Marcus forged my death certificate, emptied my inheritance, attempted to file a fraudulent life insurance claim, and then used my supposed death to build a charity for profit." All eyes turned to Marcus. He was sweating now, visibly shaking. A woman in the third row stood. "Is this true? Did you fake your wife's death?" Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. Then Darren stood, microphone in hand. "I think we've heard enough." He turned to a nearby man in uniform. "Detective, he's all yours." The officer stepped forward. "Marcus Walker, you are under arrest for fraud, identity theft, forgery, and embezzlement." Gasps exploded. Cameras surged forward. Marcus stumbled backward. "This is lies. She's setting me up." But no one moved to help him. No one believed him anymore. As the officer cuffed his wrists, Elena stepped aside, expression unreadable. Marcus turned to her. "You can't do this." She finally met his eyes. "You left me to die, but I didn't." As he was led off stage, the room remained silent. Then Elena turned back to the crowd. "I'm not here for revenge, not even for sympathy. I'm here because survival matters. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is not burn everything down, but stand in the middle of it, alive." She looked around the room. "They erased me. But I rebuilt myself, without his name, without his lies, and without his help. I lived. I raised the children he left behind. I found peace. And I speak now not to relive the pain, but to reclaim the truth." Silence. Then a single clap. Then another. Until the room rose to its feet, not in applause for a hero, but in reverence for a survivor.
The headlines broke before sunrise. Widowed hero exposed. Marcus Walker arrested at gala honoring his dead wife. She was never dead. Elena Walker returns from the grave to reveal the truth. He stole her name. She took it back. By noon, the internet had turned. Clips from the gala circulated like wildfire. TikToks stitched Elena's words with reactions from women across the country.
Twitter flooded with hashtags. Hashtag Elena is alive. Hashtag justice for Elena. Hashtag believe her story. Strangers sent messages from every corner of the world. Survivors, single mothers, women who had once felt erased. But Elena didn't read them all. She was too busy living. Back at her shop, now closed for the week, she sat in the back room folding clothes for a shelter donation. Angela walked in, holding a fresh cup of tea. "They're calling you a warrior, a phoenix, a symbol." Elena smirked. "I'm just tired." Angela laughed. "You're allowed to be tired. You just buried a man without lifting a shovel." Vanessa had quietly left the city. Her name was splashed across a few tabloids for a week, but she didn't speak to press. She didn't sell her story. Instead, she moved into a small apartment near her sister's house and focused on her pregnancy. Sometimes she'd text Angela an update. 20 weeks, healthy baby. Still terrified but breathing. Marcus, meanwhile, had been denied bail. Multiple charges. Federal investigation pending. More victims coming forward. Turns out Elena wasn't the only woman he tried to erase. He had left a trail of manipulation behind him, a string of false businesses, shady deals, and women who had always sensed something was wrong, but could never prove it. Until now. Elena didn't follow the court case closely. Darren Cole kept her in the loop. The foundation was dissolved, the assets frozen. Several executives were under review. But to Elena, that chapter was closed. She had no interest in dragging the story through every news cycle. Her war was never about the cameras. It was about being seen. One morning, weeks after the gala, Elena walked into her shop early. The air smelled of lavender and old wood. The sun peeked through the front window, casting golden stripes on the hardwood floor. And there, on the shelf, sat a photo. 3 children, 5 years old now, smiling, alive. They didn't know everything. Not yet. She would tell them someday, piece by piece. But for now, they just knew their mom ran a store, laughed when they told silly jokes, made grilled cheese on rainy days, and sang lullabies even when her voice cracked. They knew love, and that was enough. That afternoon, a young woman walked into the shop. She had short pink hair and wore a hoodie with "Fight Like a Girl" in bold print. She looked around for a moment, then approached the counter. "Are you her?" she asked quietly. "Who?" "The woman from the gala, the one who came back." Elena smiled gently. "I'm Ellie James. But yes, I was Elena Walker." The girl nodded, tears welling up. "My mom. She passed last year. Cervical cancer. I wish she could have seen you speak." Elena reached out and took her hand. "She did," she said. "All of them did." That night, after the kids had fallen asleep, Elena sat on the porch. A soft wind blew. Angela joined her, setting down 2 mugs. They didn't speak for a while, just watched the stars. Then Angela broke the silence. "What now?" Elena sipped her tea. "I rebuild." Angela nodded. "Anything else?" Elena looked up at the sky. "I live."